The overall goal of this protocol is to establish a methodology for assessing the effects of music listening on psychobiological stress in daily life.
This method enables us to answer key questions in stress research, such as how music may exert its effects on our mind and body, and how to use music as a means of stress reduction in daily life.
Subjects being investigated in their daily life without experimental manipulation constitutes the main advantage of this technique.
Generally, individuals new to this method will struggle because a thorough training of subjects on the collection of data in daily life is required.
Begin by pre-labeling the saliva vials by using a simple unique code for each vial. Then weigh the saliva vials to later determine an accurate salivary flow rate. Split the samples according to the day of sampling by placing all samples for one day and the corresponding number of straws into a small plastic bag. Begin by conducting an introductory session with the subject to familiarize them with the electronic diary device, questionnaires, and saliva collection method. Provide the subject with a mobile electronic diary device with which they can complete questionnaires during the ambulatory assessment. Instruct the subject on how to handle and use all functions in the electronic diary device that relate to the study, such as how to turn it on and off, how to mute and unmute the alarm, as well as how to start the application presenting the items. Then provide the subject with a study manual that includes detailed information about each question asked during the course of the study, as well as about the saliva collection method. Next, demonstrate how to collect a saliva sample by first asking the subject to swallow once. Then, ask the subject to accumulate saliva by not swallowing for the next 2 minutes. Set a timer for 2 minutes on the mobile electronic diary device. Then, after 2 minutes, ask the subject to transfer all accumulated saliva into the vial. Finally, instruct the subject on how to start the first assessment on the day following this introductory session, and set a date for the post-monitoring session after data collection has been completed. Within the diary, first show a filter question and ask whether music listening has occurred since the last assessment. Next, ask questions that cover a more in-depth characterization of the music listening episode when subjects report having listened to music. Assess the reasons for music listening by asking the subject to choose the main reason for music listening among relaxation, activation, distraction, and reducing boredom. Ask for the perceived valence and perceived arousal of the music that was listened to. Then ask the subject whether they were alone or in the presence of friends, acquaintances, or strangers while listening to the music. Additionally, measure subject stress using a single item indicating how stressed the subject feels at the moment, using a 5-point Likert scale with anchors not at all and very much. Immediately after the subject provides subjective information on music listening and stress in the diary, ask the subject to start collecting the saliva sample. Then, after having transferred saliva into the vial, ask the subject to enter the code written on the vial as a compliance check at the end of each assessment time point. Finally, after introduction completion, inform subjects that they must come to the laboratory and return the electronic diary and saliva samples. Then, once the subject has returned the study materials, debrief them by asking about any problems that may have occurred during the study, interference of study participation with daily life routines, as well as overall satisfaction with the study participation. Deliberate music listening was associated with lower subject stress levels. However, there was no effect on the secretion of cortisol or the activity of alpha amylase. Music that was listened to for the reason of relaxation yielded lower subjective stress levels and lower secretion of salivary cortisol. Interestingly, the effect of music listening in the presence of others exceeded the effect of mere music listening and of the presence of others when the assessment was triggered.
After subjects practice a couple of assessments, they are quickly able to answer the items on the electronic diary device and to complete the collection of saliva samples in daily life. Applying this procedure, it's important to thoughtfully select your study population with regard to inclusion criteria, as in daily life you might not be able to control for confounding variables as extensively as in experimental settings.
Extending this procedure into ecological momentary interventions will provide answers to consecutive questions. For instance, what are the acute effects of music listening in a specific stressful situation? Since its development, this technique has been paving the way for stress researchers to explore psychobiological underpinnings of health behaviors, such as music listening in daily life.
After watching this video, we hope you now understand how to assess the effects of music listening on psychobiological stress in daily life.